Hello, everyone. This is Mike Pearson. I'm a security strategist with CBI. Today, I'm going to be going over a little bit of the security landscape, what we've seen in 2015 and what we can expect to see in the rest of 2016. And also joining me today for an endpoint management discussion is Jason Cordell. He's an IBM pre-sale specialist here at CBI. And also Chad Kinter. He's an IBM Security Intelligence strategist with IBM, and he's going to go over the IBM Security Intelligence strategy. So first, we're going to go over the landscape. And it's really interesting, some of the key trends that we saw from 2015. Number one was a focus on high-value targets. Health-related, personally identifiable information and other highly sensitive data can be used for social engineering to achieve access to even more valuable financial targets. So that was certainly an uptick. Secondly, we saw the sophistication of attack techniques increase with quantum leaps in mobile malware, juxtaposing a continued use of classics like the distributed denial of service and POS malware. Third, we saw breaches without borders. Breaches are now being reported more widely around the world due to the expanding targeting and stricter disclosure guidelines that we're seeing across different countries, and not just the United States. And fourth and finally, a need for security basics. Many of the incidents that we're going to go over today could have been easily avoided with just a good focus on some of the security basics. So taking a step back, we can clearly see that CISOs are faced with significant challenges out there. Security is no longer just an IT issue, it's a business priority issue. In the past year, we've experienced several high-profile data breaches that affected tens to hundreds of millions of individuals in each. The CISOs are still facing significant shortage of skills, lack of good metrics, and an undefined security strategy roadmap to help them achieve a higher security maturity within their organizations. And all of this equates to a model that is just not sustainable as attacks start to focus more and more on higher value targets. So our friends over at IBM have a great threat research group called the XForce, and by 2016, they had tracked approximately 272 security incidents for all of 2015, pretty much on par with 279 total incidents tracked in 2014. In terms of total disclosed records, 2014 was notable for the largest ever, with more than 1 billion records being leaked. And while that was down just slightly, it was still a staggering 600 million records that were leaked in 2015. And that's all based on XForce research utilizing public breach disclosure information. Now, what that says for us is that cyber criminals are really now targeting bigger targets, and their rewards are greater as they fine-tune their efforts to obtain and leverage higher value data than in years past. The demand for leak data is trending upward toward higher value records as well, such as health-related personally identifiable information and other highly sensitive data, with less emphasis on traditional emails, passwords. Even credit card data is not really what it used to be. This personally identifiable information can be used specifically for social engineering to gain access to those higher value financial targets. So we're seeing the highly regulated industries have had the highest per record data breach cost. These industries include healthcare, education, pharmacological, financial services. They had the highest per capita data breach cost above the overall mean of $145, where public sector organizations and retail companies had a per capita cost well below the mean value. So why are we still seeing so many data breaches out there? Not only are they being targeted, but we're not really addressing and doing some of the basic blocking and tackling that we could do in order to achieve a more secure state and a higher security maturity within our organizations. But overall, the majority of the breaches are caused by, still today, vulnerabilities that exist in either misconfigured systems and applications or vulnerable code, which malware is taking advantage of. And it really falls down to specific targeted attacks is really just a small piece of this. Really today, we're still seeing the majority of attacks are taking place across those three primary groups, the vulnerabilities and the malware themselves. So every breach response requires a plan of action, and really got to think ahead. When an organization discovers or is notified of a breach, time becomes of the essence. The organization's immediate focus becomes on moving quickly from a detection to a containment phase. And in order to make this move, the organization needs to have answered a set of essential questions aimed at identifying the extent of the breach and the damage that it's caused. This process is often called breach response and involves investigation, analysis, and forensics. Examples of some of the questions that you might want to try to answer in these situations are how long has this activity been going on? In other words, when did the intrusion begin? Is the activity still ongoing? Are we still in the middle of the breach? How many systems were affected? What kind of data was taken and exposed? Was any sensitive proprietary confidential information taken? And in order to reduce the impact of a security incident, organizations should focus on early detection and swift investigation capabilities. Enterprise forensics makes this possible, and when attacked, an enterprise needs to be able to rapidly investigate and determine the scope and impact of the incident so that they can effectively contain the threat and resecure their network. Now, one of the more critical capabilities of any of these breach responses is the ability to have reconstruction capabilities of your network. So what exactly is reconstruction capabilities? So reconstruction really enables an organization to view the record and view the recorded network transaction in formats that are specifically tailored for human consumption. So another way to think of this is like a DVR for your network. It allows you to play back the entire attack that happened on your network. For example, it could reconstruct and include displaying web pages that were accessed by adversaries, a complete email message or thread that was involved, and match that up to any of the files that were stolen in the attack, or even down to instant messaging conversations. Now, this is extremely critical because without this reconstruction, it's virtually impossible to forensically stitch together any of today's advanced attacks because they're really coming across so many different vectors. So what can we do to mitigate some of these threats? And I think I said in the beginning, a lot of this is the basic blocking and tackling that we still need to focus on. Many of the incidents we've seen could have been avoided with a focus on security basics and by focusing on critical points in the attack chain with preventative and preemptive defenses on both the endpoint and the network. Most importantly, some of the considerations you need to keep in mind are instrumenting your environment with an effective detective solution, keeping up with threat intelligence, trying to maintain current and accurate asset inventory of all your systems on your network, maintaining and identifying identity governance practice to audit and enforce rules and permissions, so IAM, having a patch solution that covers your entire infrastructure, not just your desktops, implementing mitigating controls. If you've done a risk analysis and identified where you fall on, say, the SANS top 20 critical control spectrum, making sure you've implemented mitigating controls to provide coverage where you may be lacking. And finally, to create and practice a broad incident response plan. So in the next two sections, we're going to go over and learn about some technology and solutions from our great partner, IBM. And up next is going to be Jason Cordell. Once again, he's an IBM pre-sale specialist here at CBI, and he's going to be talking a little bit about endpoint management and patch management.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Again, my name is Jason Cordell. I'm the pre-sales guy for the IBM tools at CBI, formerly of IBM, where I was in the role of a engineer in the Great Lakes and Southeast region, primarily for BigFix. So endpoint management is what I do. It's what I've done for a very long time. I've spent a lot of time over the years using a lot of different tools and a lot of different situations and different levels of responsibility within the organization. But I've gone through, and over time, I've found there's a handful of things that I've got to have, no matter what tools I'm using and however the tools work. It doesn't matter to me as long as I can do these things. And for visibility, if I can't see it on my network, I can't secure it, period. If it's not in my tools, it's outside of my vision, and it leaves me blind. Reach is extremely important to me. I don't care where the machines are that I'm managing. I've got to be able to get to them, whether they're on the network, off the network, in a corporate office, in a coffee shop, overseas, on the seas. It doesn't matter to me where those machines are at. They're my responsibility, and I need to make sure that they stay secured. These days, speed is extremely important to me. I need to be able to react very quickly as soon as things change in my organization, and I need to be able to go through and react immediately. Typical conversations in this scope are, ransomware and 0-day. As soon as something appears in my network, I need to be able to look everywhere to see if this has impacted other pieces of my infrastructure. Accuracy is another big one. If my data is not up to date, or it's stale, or it's missing information, then my data is worthless. I need to be able to see what's going on in my world today, here and now. Automation is another one. Typically have a limited staff whenever I'm doing something, so I need to go through and automate the solution. Whatever this fix is, whatever I'm doing, I need to automate it so I fix it once and I move on to the next thing. And the final big one, and this one has bitten me many times over the years, is the reliability of the tools. Now, my job isn't to maintain the set of the tools and babysit the tools. My job is to take care of securing the environment and automate processes and make things a lot more efficient. Now, I wasn't hired to feed a set of tools. Other things that my tools need to have for me, they must be able to do, is the tools need to be fast. When I need to answer questions within my infrastructure, I need to be able to get the data back to my fingertips very quickly. I need to know what the current state of my environment is at all times, and I need this to be in a complete automated fashion. Now, if I'm spending all my time running scans across my infrastructure to find out if I'm missing patches, or I'm waiting for slow reports to run, or if I'm waiting on data to be compiled or something like that, all those things, they add up and they impact me very quickly. Reliability is probably the biggest out of everything. If the agent that I've deployed in my infrastructure isn't reliable, I can't trust that it's doing what it's doing properly and trust that it's telling me the truth, then I'm in deep trouble to begin with. Now, if the agent's on there and it's rock solid, then I can always do what I need to do. A couple of the other big pieces are being friendly to the network. The network wasn't built to support my needs to patch the infrastructure and deploy software and things like that. The network was built to serve business purposes, to let the business do its thing. They're just simply sharing those resources with me so I can help out from a security perspective inside the infrastructure. So, when I end up inside of infrastructure with a very diverse and distributed setup, I need to respect all these various types of network connection speeds and network available bandwidth. And along those same lines, I need the network team to be able to tell me apart from everything else. If I've got a T1 going to a remote location and suddenly that T1 is overloaded and they can't process credit card transactions or something like that, the network team digs into it. They need to be able to immediately remove me from that picture so I don't get pulled into a fire that's not mine. And the final option, or the final one on this list, is operating systems that are supported. I don't care what the operating systems are in my environment. If it's a server, if it's a workstation, it's on my list of things to help secure and become a source of data, truth of the data for those machines. Things that I have to know. Accurate patch reporting. Lots of tools do patching. Lots of tools do them different ways. Lots of tools don't give you the full truth. When I'm looking at the security of my environment, I need to know precisely which patches are installed in machines and which ones aren't. I can't, think that the tools are doing their best effort to guess for me or anything like that. I need to know whatever the truth is. And scaling. As my organization grows, through acquisition or because we're doing, something very beneficial and somebody likes our product and we buy it and we grow. That's the goal of every business, typically. I need to make sure that these tools scale to meet the needs and the increased demand of the infrastructure. And cross-training. I don't want a different set of tools for, everything else. Right? It was cross-department reporting. So I need to be able to share data with lots of people. I don't want people to come to me and ask me all the time to run a report for them and give them data. I want to give them access to the data and let them pull what they need as they need it, schedule things to happen on an automatic basis. And I also want to take the data that I have, which is a source of truth, a reliable source of truth, and I want to feed that to other tools to help share the data across the infrastructure. And the final thing that I really care about is the return on investment to the organization. Now, I need to be able to provide substantial and measurable value to my organization for what I do. And if I've gone through and I've done everything properly, then they completely fly under the radar. Nobody knows that I'm there. I'm not impacting the end users because I'm sucking the life out of the machines. I'm not impacting the network because I'm crushing all the network segments. And the security team doesn't come to me and yell at me because my compliance is low across portions of the infrastructure. Everything's happening properly. Nobody even notices that I'm there, until we have a 0 day or something like that, and they come to me for help. And that's my goal in the world. So with all the things that I need to do, again, I've used a lot of tools over time. My tool of choice is BigFix. It covers a tremendous number of operating systems. All the information is near real time. Everything is done with a single agent with a minimal footprint on the machine, typically 2% of CPU and 10 megabytes of RAM when it's in a persistent idle state. All the traffic flows over one single port. That's a port that nobody else uses. We scale to tremendous numbers off of a single management server, so I don't have to replicate my infrastructure and then synchronize data behind the scenes. I automatically pull in content from IBM's cloud servers. It synchronizes in my network. My clients evaluate it. They tell me what the real deal is automatically. I don't have to lift a finger for any of that. And managing the devices off the network. One home firewall over port 52311. That's all I have to do. And I just simply tell the clients how to find the firewall. And the ROI is extremely fast. I can bring tremendous value to the infrastructure with BigFix very quickly. And I give everybody a single pane of glass to look at the risk across the infrastructure. Whether I'm actually patching the machines or managing the machines with BigFix or not is irrelevant. As long as I have the agent on there, I'm still gathering the same information. So people can still use their same tools if they choose to, but I can add that information to my single source of truth and feed that along to everybody else. And I think that's about it for me. And so from here, I will pass it on to Chad Kinter.
Thanks everyone for joining, and thanks for your interest in IBM security. My name is Chad Kinter. Work with IBM. I've been at IBM for about 2 years. Prior to that, I was a senior product manager on endpoint for a financial security firm, focused on third-party products and some of our competitors. Now I work with IBM, and I focus on QRadar for all of our business partners. I'm a technical lead across North America. And CBI has been a great partner for us, and I'm glad to be here today. And thanks again for joining, and we appreciate it. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the IBM security strategy, the integration points, and most notably QRadar. So we'll focus on QRadar and talk about the integration between BigFix and QRadar. Jason talked to you a little bit here about BigFix and how it can benefit your company and your customers. And I'll talk to you about QRadar and how QRadar can benefit your company and your customers. So this is the IBM security integration portfolio. So this is essentially all of our products inside of our portfolio. As you can see towards the center there, we have security intelligence, better known as QRadar, QRadar SIEM, QRadar Log Manager, Vulnerability Manager. And then on the upper left-hand side, you can see on the network side, we have QRadar Risk Manager. And then Mike had talked to you a little bit about incident forensics, QRadar incident forensics, and we'll cover some more of that as well. Towards the top, though, we've got, on the endpoint, we have BigFix, we have the Trustier suite of products. The mobile side, we have MAS 360 and the mobile platform. Advanced fraud, we have Trustier Report and Trustier Pinpoint. Inside the identity access suite, we have FIM, Federated Identity Manager, and the Access Manager. And towards the bottom there, we have our IBM XForce research threat team, which Mike talk to you about as well. And then on the data side, we have our Guardium suite of products and Key Lifecycle Manager. On the application and app scan we have, and Data Power sits in the middleware there. And then on the network side, we have the GX is our end-of-life product, but now we have the Network Protection XGS and Site Protector. So how do all these products feed into QRadar? As you can see here, these are the integration points between all of those products and how they feed into QRadar. QRadar accepts all of these feeds obviously from our IBM suite of products, but also from third-party products, which we'll cover some of that as well. Right now in QRadar, we support 450 integrations out of the box with DSM, which are also known as device support modules. So on the BigFix side, what do we pull in? BigFix allows QVM or QRadar Vulnerability Manager to see what endpoint vulnerabilities have been patched or are scheduled to be patched, and which endpoints adjust the vulnerability severity accordingly. So inside of QRadar, there's an asset database, and BigFix helps us to enrich that information by providing vulnerability information on those particular assets so that you and your security team can focus on the high-risk assets that are most high-risky in your network first. And Trustier Apex provides us the endpoint asset description, and then provides correlation and analysis of that. I'm just going to kind of touch on some of these. So if you look towards the bottom there on the data pillar, which is Guardium. So Guardium is going to provide your database vulnerability scans and send that vulnerability information to Curator Vulnerability Manager. And then your app scan is going to provide the application security events into QRadar and to provide you the context and analysis around your application security. And all of these have two-way integrations now as well, which is unique to QRadar. So if we see an endpoint that has malicious activity or some sort of malware on that, we can send a response automatically to QRadar, and I'll touch on some of that. Same thing goes for Guardium in the data suite. So if you have a database that is hopefully not, but has been breached, or you've got insider threat activity, somebody's accessing particular tables or file structures on those databases that we're monitoring, we can shut off their access. And the same goes with the identity and access suite as well. If you've got malicious activity inside or out, you have somebody moving laterally across the network, they're logging in from multiple VPN spots in different geographic locations, which isn't normal activity, QRadar can shut those accounts off, and then you can shut them off indefinitely, or put 24 hours on that. And the same goes for the network with the XGS line too. So you see malicious activity from some sort of IP address that XForce has deemed a threat, we can automatically blacklist that IP from QRadar directly to XGS, so that that's no longer an issue on your network. So the information that we're pulling into QRadar from all of this, from all these data sources, you can see on the left-hand side. So we've got the security devices, the servers, mainframes, all that network activity, all that data activity coming off the database servers, the configuration information that we're going to talk about a little bit in Risk Manager. We're pulling off the firewall switches and the routers, all the config, all the ACLs. We bubble all that up into QRadar, and if QRadar deems something as a threat, whether that be from the global threat intelligence, which is XForce, like I mentioned, on malicious IPs, or if you've got malicious database activity, or any of that nature, as we correlate all this information across all these billions of events that are coming to your organization, we'll bubble these up into what's known as an offense. That is the pinpointed prioritized incidents within QRadar. So these are the items that QRadar thinks that you need to be looking at and could be a threat or some sort of malicious activity on the network. And we would like for your security analyst to take a look at this, or to give the threat team an option to take a look at this and really begin to build the case actually to what is happening on a network. And how do you do that? It's through the tech phase, right? So on pre-attack analytics, what we have is we have IBM Security Curator Vulnerability Manager, and we have QRadar Risk Manager. So Vulnerability Manager and Risk Manager are going to help you to not only lessen the security issues on your network, but also give you visibility into what may be an issue, right? So inside of Vulnerability Manager, we're pulling all the scans from the databases, from BigFix, from third-party scanners, and then we're enriching that asset information inside of the asset database. And then Risk Manager, what we're doing there is we're pulling all the configurations from the firewall switches and routers, and we're alerting you to issues that may be a case on the network. Say, for instance, you've got port 80 open all the way from the external high security DMZ into a back-end database server, and you don't want to allow that. Risk Manager is going to tell you, hey, there could be a threat on this port 80. You might want to close it. So then in turn, you alert the firewall team or the networking team to have them close off that particular port. What also we can do is we take snapshots of risk with Risk Manager, so that if something does change in a firewall or switch or router, you can do a before and after. Who changed it? When did they change it? Was that change approved, right? If you have a full change management procedure in place, you can double check to make sure that, what was supposed to be changed, the particular ACL on which firewall, when it was changed, was it inside the window, things of that nature. So that's the pre-attack analytics side. Real-time attack analytics, that's our QRadar SIEM, our security intelligence portfolio and solution. So this is going to do all that correlation from the logs, events, flows, and all the user activity, asset information, and we're going to correlate all that inside of QRadar and alert you if something were to happen. So God forbid something actually does happen on the network. what do we have? We have our Post Attack incident forensics suite, right? So like Mike had mentioned earlier, so we can do full session reconstruction. It's full VoIP session reconstruction. You know, who was here on the network? Where are they? Are they still here? What did they take? And how do I get it back, right? So that's going to be your Curator incident forensics. And then the real-time incident response, Jason had mentioned, you know, talking about BigFix. So, I mean, if something's going on the network, malicious activity, you're going to quarantine that with BigFix. You're going to patch it in real time with BigFix. If you've got, you know, particular vulnerabilities or threats inside of the network, BigFix is going to be the engine that actually remediates those endpoints for us. And then IBM Emergency Response Services. So this is the blue team is going to drop into your network or your network or your environment and help you to remediate those issues that we find. Okay, so QRadar supports hundreds of third-party products out of the box, and this is just a subset of what we support. So just looking towards the bottom right, you know, Qualys and Perva. We support full third-party Oracle, so we can pull information from Oracle Palo Altos if your customers have Palo Alto, or Microsoft products. So I mean, on the Qualys, on the third-party scanners, so we'll pull in the vulnerability information from Qualys, we'll pull from Rapid7, we'll pull from Nessus into and enrich that information inside of the Curator Vulnerability Manager. And this is what it looks like, essentially in a point solution. So Curator is a full security intelligence platform. It's not point solution based. What you're looking at right now is a snapshot of quite a few point solutions where that fits in a QRadar suite of products. So flows, you know, we're looking at Landcope, Riverbed, you know, packet capture side, you got EMC, RSA, Net Witness, and the Solaras, and the vulnerabilities, like I mentioned, Qualys, Rapid7, Tenable. So for configurations, or that's the QRadar Risk Manager product, you know, you've got Skybox, Red Seal, and then logs, obviously Splunk and LogLogic, and then on the event side, we got McAfee Nitro, which is now Intel Security, and ArcSight. So just touching on QRadar Vulnerability Manager and what it looks like. So our Vulnerability Manager inside of QRadar it's all part of the single pane of glass, as you can see right there towards the top. So everything inside of QRadar is housed in this single dashboard. So your security analysts don't have to bounce around to multiple different products. They can, you know, spend their day inside of QRadar and really making sense out of all this information. So our Vulnerability Manager is full PCI-based certified scanner, detects 70,000 plus vulnerabilities inside of the CVE database. And then it has complete vulnerability view, supporting all those third-party vulnerability feeds that I mentioned earlier. And then in addition to what we can provide is an external scan as well. So you see right there towards the middle, it's the integrated external scanner. And this provides the ability to send an outbound transmission to IBM, schedule an external scan, and then we'll scan your external assets inside of the DMZ for you based upon IP address. Just as long as all you have to do is trust that IP, 4443 outbound, and then we'll scan that as part of the vulnerability scanner. So kind of like a mini pen test, if you will, for your external assets. And that comes out of the box with the QRadar Vulnerability Manager. What I hadn't really touched upon, though, is if you buy or purchase QRadar SIEM, right, the SIEM product, all of this Vulnerability Manager, Risk Manager, Incident Forensics are all bolt-on modules in QRadar. So there's no forklift, you know, replacement. So as you grow, we'll grow with you. So if you got more events or more flows coming into the network, we can bolt on additional licensing. Simple as, you know, plug in the license key, and QRadar can now scan and monitor additional EPS or flows. Same holds true for Vulnerability Manager, Forensics, Risk Manager. These are all license-based implementations. Sometimes you've got additional hardware based upon how many events. If you've got, you know, data centers, then you don't have, you know, gigabit backbones, right? If you only got like 100 meg backbone, we'll put event processors or flow processors inside of those data centers, and then bolt those into QRadar. But again, it's all modular based, and there's no rip and replace with upgrades to QRadar. Just kind of want to touch on what's new and exciting here around the IBM XForce Exchange, and then the threat intelligence integration. We're going to talk a little bit about, you know, that, and then we're going to talk about some of the App Exchange that we have inside of IBM as well. So the IBM XForce Exchange, you know, what is it? It's first off, it's free. The front end is free. So you can begin using it right now. All you need is an IBM account and you log in. So it's open, it's actionable, and it's social, right? So what we're seeing in real time is what you're going to see inside of the XForce front end, right? So if you've got malicious activity on IP addresses, you can go in there, you can search the IBM database, and we'll pull back all the information on all those IP addresses that are malicious that we know about that the XForce team has uncovered. If you've got MD5 checksum hashes that are malicious intent, you can check those inside of this particular database as well. If you just want to do research on a company before you start doing business with them, you can type in the company name and see what we pull back. Maybe they had issues with breaches before, and you don't want them to be part of your supplier network. That's possible as well. And it's backed by IBM XForce and IBM Research. We opened this up back in April 2015 and provided it free to everyone that would like to use it. And if your security team needs a social platform to do research, to build cases, you can use this for free. And this is what it looks like. This is the front end into IBM XForce Exchange. Towards the bottom right here, you can see the web address. It's just exchange.xforce.ibmcloud.com. You can log in here. You can start to research the activity that's happening in real time. You can go over here to the Security Intelligence blog, and you can see what the latest news of the day is. Or if you want to, like I said, build cases and build collections, you can begin to build a collection and then do your research against that and share it with your colleagues or share it with your coworkers or anybody inside or external of your corporation that may like to share their information with you. Also new in the QRadar is the IBM App Exchange. So these are all new apps. Some of them, as you can see, are developed by IBM on the left-hand side, and some of them are developed by our trusted partners. Just a subset here is Bit9 or Carbon Black. ExaBeam is the one that you can see here. So this is a ExaBeam app that's providing the user behavior analytics. And Resilient. So IBM made an actual a new acquisition a couple of weeks ago, went public, the Resilient Incident Response, and there's an app for Resilient now that bolts into QRadar, and you can pop your offense out into Resilient and start performing the incident response. And these apps are all free, and you can get to them from the XForce Exchange that I just showed you. Left-hand side, you can go into the App Store, you can take a look. I think there's just over 30 or maybe 35 apps now. We're on track to have supposed to be 100 apps by the end of the year. So it's all free. Check it out at your leisure. All right, so that's it for me, and back to you, Mike.
All right, great. Thanks, Chad. And also thanks, Jason, for your insight into BigFix and the endpoint management. So as we discussed earlier, what we went over today was the threat landscape. We also a bit about endpoint management and what you can do there to address and mitigate some of the security issues with your endpoints. And finally, we talked about IBM's security solutions around BigFix and QRadar and how they integrate together. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining today. If you have any questions or comments, you can always reach us at cbihome.com. Feel free to email us at cbisecuritystrategists@cbihome.com, or of course you can call our headquarters at 800-747-8585. Once again, this is Mike Pearson. I'm a security strategist with CBI, and thank you very much for attending today.